Yes, perfect. We are recording.
Hey,
Pedro Costa, Auricle. Welcome to the Oliver Schirach Show. Yeah, thanks for the short notice. I mean, I asked you like 2 days ago, and here we are. Or was it yesterday even? We met 2 years ago, or something about that. Perhaps a bit more. Sound Hub in Struer, the city of sound, and we're talking about you and
have to know that too.
Yes, Denmark. We heard that Denmark is quite the center for sound, apparently. At least that. I mean, at least that's what Sound Hub says.
Compared to the number of people is really great. I mean, there's so many good audio companies here, so that's right.
Yes,
that's right.
Yes, and Struer is also the home of Bang Olufsen, which is I think the oldest hi-fi brand in the world.
Yeah,
if I'm not wrong.
Okay, I didn't know that.
At least that's what they claimed. It's 100 some years old, or 100 years. I don't know, 1920 something. And that's where Sound Hub is based, in the old main building, and it's a startup environment and the cluster of different sound related companies, software, hardware, whatever. And that's where we met.
When I was there going to the museum, that I think that was the most interesting thing, that they have the B&O museum there, and seeing how like they made such sophisticated things like in 1937 or something, like this crazy looking cyborg TV and like really cool stuff. So it's a very interesting place.
And many people don't know that the TV before the flat screen. If anyone knows how the TV looked before the flat screen, but that was a Bang Olufsen design. Many copied before. I mean, you had the box, right? If you look in the 50s, 60s, you had like this wooden box, right? This furniture where the TV was in, and then Louis, or whatever his name was, the main designer. He was not hired by BO. It was like always freelance. BO uses freelance designers most of the time. He came up with the design we knew afterwards, with the tube, the pyramid shape in the back, and people copied that. And people copied the flutes. BO came out in the 90s. People tried to copy the 6-time CD changer from BO. So they were icons. I don't know so much lately, but we are talking about you, Pedro. And so you're a startup guy, and you're creative and innovative, and you have your Indiegogo from last week. At this time, it's like 8-9 days ago. You had the kickstart, or the big start of the Indiegogo, and was successful. But I want to know first about you, how you got there. So if you would have to describe yourself with 3 words, what kind of words are they, and why are those words describing you?
Okay, so the first one is definitely persistence. Just pure stubbornness since I remember existing in this world. I take no's as a challenge, not as a no, all the time. And that's by far the biggest one. The second one is just focus, just staying focused on one thing at a time. It's if I don't do that, I can't like go to the next level and the next level. So I need to stay focused. And sometimes I'm so focused that I forget that there's actually a real world out there. So maybe I should now say number 3, something. I mean, everything has its positive and negative. So even if you have some traits that can help you get somewhere, they definitely also affect you negatively in other ways in your life. I think number 3 is what is number 3? I'm trying to think of how do people perceive me instead of how do I perceive myself, because that's normally more realistic, you know. I think I'm a very detail oriented person, to the extreme sometimes. That also has a positive and a negative. I try not to do things half done, but on the other hand, you have to know when to stop and when to say, you know, Pareto principle, 80/20, this is it. This is where we stop this, and this is where we start something else. So yeah, persistence, focus, and detail oriented. But you know, I think that can be applied mostly for my professional life, but I think that also permeates to my personal life. But yeah, definitely stubbornness is a big one.
Okay, yeah, that probably is personal trait.
Yeah.
So that's nice. We go later on this bit more, if
Sure.
as a as a startup guy. Now, if you would be a new color in a coloring box, what color would you be and why? And you can, any answer is the right
If
answer.
it was a new color in the coloring box.
Yes. What
So
color would you be?
Wow.
I mean, you could also be, if you like black or red, it can be that
But
simple, but it can also be something.
Is this about my color preference, or is it about some kind of metaphor for the color?
You choose.
Okay. Oh man. I'm definitely, I mean, I've been highly influenced by the Danish culture in the sense that, I mean, I've always been like wearing black a lot, but being in Denmark is even more like everyone is wearing black all the time. No one wants to stand out. I think maybe I'm a oof, hmm. Yeah, that's a tough one, Oliver. Maybe I'm the lack of color. I don't know. I definitely, I think I'm more on the. I mean, if we're talking about my favorite color, I think it's definitely green. I'm a very peace oriented person. I really love nature. It gives me a sense of calm, and but if we're talking about, I think there's like a every human has this kind of uh, duality in them, and kind of like the two cores, right? That are kind of, you have a big hole in the middle, and then they just communicate here, but it's like there's two persons. So I mean, in one hand, in one of them is the green, but in the other one is more like the gray, you could say. But it's a gray that is kind of shifting. So it's not too dark, but it's not too bright either. So it's just always kind of keeping things the way they have to be, and trying to again move to the next step by staying focused. So it's not too colored. It's just a very functional color.
Okay, I can
But
see,
if,
I can,
yeah,
I can see that you have the green. If you go, I talked about mystical stuff and other spiritual things I talked to, and green is the color of the heart.
yeah,
Many times, the
yeah,
color of nature,
yeah. I
peace.
definitely put a lot of heart into the things that I do. So that makes sense. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
So and the gray, the way you started it with the color, it sounds a bit like you're influenced by Denmark. You don't want to stand out, so you don't want to put too much color into it, but you still have to
Yeah.
shift in the grays
Exactly.
from
Exactly.
anthracite, or whatever it's called in English, to the not light gray, but somewhere there. Yeah, 50 Shades of Gray.
Nuanced.
Nuances.
Yeah, a lot
100.
of nuance.
Yes, exactly. So you're a
Yeah.
nuanced guy. And the next one, to really start up to get to know you.
Okay.
I just love these questions. Is a secret or fun fact people do not really know about you? I mean, I had medieval sword fighting to calligraphy.
Oh wow.
You know, a guy which you probably know from SoundUp. Yeah, now the name doesn't come. Too many
It's
names
okay.
suddenly come up. He was doing calligraphy and painting
Oh, cool. Cool.
tin soldiers, for example. So,
Yeah.
do you have any of those fun facts or secrets?
Yeah. I like to play Nintendo Switch once in a while. It's my guilty pleasure. I don't do it very often because I'm so busy, but yeah, I really like video games for chilling out. I was a big Game Boy player in the 90s when I was a kid, right? So I mean
Oh, Game Boy.
that's a guilty pleasure. But I mean something else that people don't really know much because I don't talk much about it, but I'm also a musician and I actually have a band and I sing and but of course my big friends know about it, but most people don't know that I actually am actively playing music as well. Yeah,
So,
so those two things.
so is
My
it singing or what
yeah,
instrument?
I mean I started playing and singing quite early in life, so I can do both, and I mean I consider myself like a multi instrumentalist, but I mean I don't spend enough time saying I'm a very good one, but at least you know I can do different instruments, but my main instrument is guitar, and then I also sing. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's just coming up when you say multi-instrumentalist. Once on the newsletter from SoundHub, or was it Facebook? I don't remember. Was something about the startup that is now their Loop, I think it's called. I think they
Yeah.
do looping stuff. So,
Yeah.
of course, you're in Copenhagen, I think,
I've
or
heard
are
about
you?
him. Yeah. I don't know. I just heard about him from the social media, just like you, but I don't know much about it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you're situated in Copenhagen, I think, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, and
I
yeah,
mean,
school is
Luke.
4 hours away, so yeah. Otherwise, that would be cool. Like if you do multi instruments loop, all right, then you can play.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can. I mean, looping is a very interesting feature because you can just create a song if you have all the instruments laid out and they are connected to a looper. You can just create a song out of the blue. There's like some pretty cool artists doing that, and it's not a new thing. I mean, there's been some. I mean, I don't know, more than 15 years or something. Some really good guys doing that. If you YouTube it, it's
Oh yeah. So let's just hang there. I mean, I know three of them. Okay, one got suddenly famous because like "Good Morning" or whatever. He made this really
yeah.
weird song, and so he got really known about that. My friend sent it to me once because I said I have a hard time waking up.
Okay.
Yeah, he was in his pajamas and do some looping weird stuff. And the other one is a German dude, which is really, I mean, that just chills me out completely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't, the name doesn't come up now, but I'm normally sending it to everyone which is interested. And then there's a monk, I think, a
Oh.
Thai or some monk which does some kind of chanting, like om kind of stuff,
Yeah.
looping, which is also very famous, but again I don't know his name. What do you have
Okay.
any names at the moment from some
I think
musicians?
there was at least, I mean, there's a guy, a big guy now that I really love, and he does like live videos. Um, I can find him. Just give me 1 second. Then you can edit this out.
What? No
uh,
editing. This podcast has no editing. This is
no editing. Oh, okay.
raw and live. I just edit out when the kids are shouting and dog or
So he's yeah, it's like um he's he's a really interesting guy because what he does, his name is Marc Rebile, Marc Marc Rebile with two L's and one T. He's so talented. Like he has like a keyboard and he's just doing a lot of looping and a lot of I mean, he's amazing, and the most amazing thing is that he's doing it live. So he's just creating music while he's recording, and then he just posts it. Like he has so many videos where he's just like it's like the way he functions is so musical that he just communicates in music, right? So he's recording it at the same time as he's creating all this stuff, layers of over layers, and he also does that as live concerts. So the I don't know if he's doing now because of Corona, but back in the day, he was just like going to a venue and he was just like making music as people are there, and it's just like he's really funky as well and really like feeling the beat, and it's really entertaining as well. He's using this big crazy robe all the time, so he's a great musician. Like he's a very good example of someone who's really good at looping.
Okay, then I
Mark
probably need to.
Rebile.
Then I probably Mark
Rebillet.
Rebile. Yeah, someone to interview, right? About
Yeah,
being,
if you can get him, you're lucky. I mean, he's really popular now. So,
yeah, like
but
about
we're
being
on the
creative,
way
right?
there as well. Sorry.
About being creative, and that's what my podcast started about. Like, how can people be
Yeah.
creative? Also,
Yeah.
because I don't know if I told you when I started the podcast, the idea came in 16, and it took me 3 years to get started, right? Because I was always worrying about the problems instead of like, okay, I want to do it, let's go. And the idea was my master thesis. I had some group meetings, right, to find out ideas. So it was about radical innovation to create some new ideas for the company. And there were at least several people saying, I'm not creative. I'm like, come on. Everyone has ideas. Everyone is creative. And so that was hanging with me. So that's why I want to interview people which do something creative in whatever way. And startup is creating.
Definitely.
And yeah, and
Everything
then
is creative about a startup.
yeah, and so that's why we are coming now to you. I mean, what is the path that Pedro Costa has created this startup with this headset? What is your story? Where are you coming from? Are you coming from an entrepreneur family, or what is it? Has it always been there that you were always creating stuff, and now it ended up like whatever years of tinkering, and here we are? What's the story?
Oh, thanks. What's the story? Well, I do have one, you could say, entrepreneur in my family. That's my mom. She has a clothing shop, but a local one, But I mean, she definitely gave me like when you grow up with an entrepreneurial parent, then you kind of see that it's possible, and maybe you kind of fall in love with it, but with your own version of it, right? I don't want to sell clothes. That's her thing, but maybe I want to do my own thing. So I mean, the way it started, actually, it's really started from my own condition. I have a hearing problem or a hearing loss since I was born, and that is something that, when you're born with something different than most, or actually everyone, in my case, because it was a small town, um it's something that is very existential. You kind of, it's yours, and there's many ways that people interpret this. I mean, I've met afterwards, like in life, different people with hearing loss, and each one has their own way of interpreting it, but the way I interpreted it as a kid was like, it's okay, but it's something that I have to know more. I have to keep on looking for answers for this. So that's the core of it. That's where it started. And then also, I like I said, I started playing music when I was young, and that was actually motivated by one, or the local ear doctor, that told my parents, the people or kids with hearing loss can become very isolated kids, because they can't hear the communication, and then they rather like close instead of socialize, because they are not able to socialize the same way as other kids. So So instead, what the strategy should be for my parents, according to this doctor, which was lucky that we had him, was to develop a healthy relationship with sound. So he motivated my parents to put me in piano class when I was 7. Yes. So then I started doing that. But I was I was really young and I didn't like the teacher, so I, after like a year or something, I dropped out. But then I always loved music and I always went back to it. So then I started playing guitar when I was like 11 or so, and then it just kept going. And I love music, and so then I developed this deep relationship with sound. It's just like it's all about sound for me. It's because of my hearing, because of music. I mean, I love electronics and IT, like computers and stuff. So it's a whole cake of audio put together with a very existential thing to it. And then when I was like 19, just like all kids, all adolescents, you don't know what you're gonna do. And my dad has always been a very good counselor, if you could say. And basically he helped me realize that I wanted to do more, to create something out of this, to create something new out of all this, all this passion, you could say. I know it sounds a bit cliche, but that's exactly what happened. So then I actually got into a university in the UK for sound engineering, and I was 19, so I needed some advice. And actually I even, because I was a bit unsure whether that was wise, because some people could say, oh, but you have a hearing loss, are you sure you want to like dedicate your whole career to something that you need to use your ears for? And that's a fair question. So I actually went to visit, when I was 19, I went to visit this doctor, which was the biggest, the best doctor in Portugal at that point, ear doctor. I even had to pay like a good amount of money, like when I was a kid. And it's like, okay, but it's worth it, and I need to have some kind of like advice from the best doctor. So I went to Lisbon. I'm originally from the south. I went to Lisbon to talk with this doctor, and I was like, hey, so I'm thinking about pursuing a career in sound, and I'm coming here to know what you think. And you have your career in audiology, or ear doctor. And then he was like, yeah, let me check the exams you've just done. Like, I did some ear exams and stuff, and then I'll tell you my advice. And then he basically looked at it and he was like, oh my god, like, are you sure? Like, this is not good. You should not be an audio person. You should dedicate your life to something else. And I if I roll back to what you asked me in the beginning, what's my number one trait? Stubbornness. So so at that point, I mean, I was quite young, and this is the path that I finally found for myself. And this guy, legitimate, opinion, like he knows his stuff. And I got out of there, and I was quite, confused, or thinking about it. And I think I even cried a little bit, like this kind of like realization that someone who should know their stuff doesn't support the idea. But then I was there with my sister, and then I think, I don't know, an hour afterwards, we were driving back home, and I looked at her, and I said to her, you know what? I don't care. I don't care what he says. I'm gonna do it anyway, and let's see what happens. And so now, like 17 years later, I did a bachelor's in sound engineering in the UK. I did an acoustics master's here in Denmark, in DTU. I worked with hearing aids with the big guys, different jobs, and now I have my own company. I'm launching my own product. So that's kind of the motivation. That's how it happened.
Wow. I didn't know that. Perhaps you told me while we met that you had a hearing loss, but yes, that also makes sense when you go on your LinkedIn profile that you worked at Oticon or whatever they called, I think.
Yeah, Oticon and
Yeah, which is like
Cochlear as well.
working with hearing aids. So kind of like
Exactly.
produce your own supply.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the motivations is that if you really think about all the stuff that you can find in the market nowadays, it's quite limited. I mean, you have most stuff is the big stuff, and then over ear and on ear, and then you also have in ear, and that's kind of the three designs you have, and they are great for several things, but they also limit you in other things. And I think it's a little bit difficult to think outside of the box when we're so used to this. But I wanted to challenge that. I mean, and life is short. Life is short, man. So you gotta
Oh, yeah.
you gotta try to do your stuff and see where it
Yeah,
goes. You know.
yeah, the setup we have with this body and mind and everything, that's depending, right? You don't know if you make the 60s or you make it to 100, right?
Yeah, it's all an experiment. I mean, that's the thing. That's the thing about startups. You gotta try it, and some succeed, but most fail. So
Yeah,
just
so
stay real and yeah.
now the question now that you came and said, you have the big over ear, then you have the in ear and the on ear or whatever. When I see my kids are at school, and there's one boy,
Yeah.
he has these hearing
Yeah.
aids which are like somehow mounted on his skull.
Yes. That's a cochlear implant.
Cochlear implant, what does that mean? So it goes into
Yeah.
the
So
ear, or is it with
yeah.
the
So
bone, or
so that kid was probably born with an even deeper hearing loss than I have. Um, because when the ear is almost non-functional, what you can do is you can do a surgery, and you basically put in a okay, so the way it works is you have the outer ear, the middle ear, and the inner ear.
Mhm.
And the inner ear is like most hearing losses are in the inner ear, and it's some, just to be a little bit detailed, is some hair cells you have in this called the cochlea, which looks like a snail, and you have some hair cells there that are sensing when the sound is coming. But what happens sometimes is that people lose these hair cells, so then the sound doesn't go through to the electric potential and into the brain, into the brainstem. It doesn't go through. So what you can do instead, and that's where the cochlear implant comes in, you can hack the snail, and you basically put in a probe, like it's like a sensor that goes in there, and then it has several places where it can fire up electric stimuli. So what you're doing is essentially you're firing up the remaining hair cells you have, and this whole system with an electric probe inside, and you do it frequency selectively. So depending on the hearing loss you have, if you need more bass, or if you need more high frequency, let's say, if you need 1 kilohertz, you stimulate just like any other hearing aid, but instead you just go all the way into the system, and you hack
Oh,
it inside the system. And so that kid has that thing inside, surgically implanted, and then that connects with some wires to the outer part that you can see. Yeah. And that is an insanely amazing invention from Australia, from yeah, very intelligent person. And and it's amazing, but it's still, I mean, it still needs a lot of improvements, technologically speaking, and it needs a lot of therapy. Like after you implant it, you have to learn how to listen with your new ears, because it's a different interface. It's kind of like putting, like, if let's say if you can't see and you have some kind of camera, right, but it's always going to be looking different than a real eye. So it's a very interesting part of the field, cochlear implants.
Okay, so yeah, I wasn't sure. Because when we and now I have seen the video of your product and we have talked about it, but I also remembered, Google Glass using like the
Yes,
bone structure to kind of vibrate. So I've
that's
always
correct.
thought it's somehow vibrating through the skull, and that's how the person will hear. Um, but that
Yes,
wouldn't work with someone with that hearing loss, or
not necessarily. It's. I mean, so again, going back to the anatomy of the ear, if you have a hearing loss in the inner part, so let's say here you have the eardrum, here you have the bones, and here you have the inner part. Um, most people have a problem in the inner parts. So whether the sound travels through the eardrum and through the bones and then to the inner part, or whether the sound travels through the skull, which is the bone conduction, it kind of bypasses this whole thing and just goes directly from the skull into the inner ear. It doesn't really matter because what the damage is done in the inner part. So whether you travel this way or travel this way, the damage is here. But the so for that kid, it would be well, that kid is a very special case. But for most hearing losses, it doesn't really matter. So, but then if you have, for example, another type of hearing loss, which is conductive hearing loss, um, I hope this, yeah. The thing with the conductive hearing loss is that you have a problem not on the inner part but somewhere in the middle. So you have the bones and you have the eardrum. So maybe you have a perforated eardrum, or you have the bones are not connected properly and the vibration doesn't go through. In that case, bone conduction, or for that matter, bone anchored hearing aids, which is also another form of bone conduction can deliver sound into the inner part. So you bypass this, that doesn't work, and you go directly in there. And that is a revelation for a lot of people who actually don't know that exists. So you can do that with headphones, bone conduction headphones. You also have hearing aids for that, and also surgical hearing aids. So yeah.
Okay. I mean, just popped up a friend of mine a few years ago. He went diving, and
Yeah,
the pressure somehow
exactly.
damaged
So
his
for that,
hearing, and he was struggling for some time.
yes. So you have solutions for that. For that guy, if he tries a bone conduction headphone, he will be mind blown, actually.
And that's where we come
Honestly.
to you, right? I mean, it's like,
Yeah,
okay,
that's I
what is
guess that is.
Auricle? I don't know. It's pronounced Auricle, or how is your product?
Auricle. I mean, it depends on the language, but I
Oh,
mean, if you say it in Danish, it's like Auricle. If you
oh
say it in
yes,
Portuguese, it's Auricle. But yeah, in English, it's Auricle. Auricle. Yeah, Auricle.
yes,
That's
and
correct.
that's how is the name representing the product? Because it's bone
Yeah,
conduct, right? It's a headset which
that's
is
correct.
giving bone conduct. So how is that name connected?
Yeah, sure. I mean, first of all, it's a pretty name. Uh, I'm trying to build a brand around that, but I mean, I, so Oracle. If you don't know the meaning of Oracle, oh my God, this camera. Okay, here we go. If you don't know the meaning of the word Oracle is the same as pinna, and that's this part of your ear. So this outer part of your ear is called the auricle.
Ah.
So it's that simple, man. There's no magic to it. Of course you can make some magic to it. I mean, Auricle. I mean, you can play some word play if you want to, but the literal meaning is, it's about the ear. It's all about the ear.
Okay, and yeah, you studied with these things, so that was a name you had in the head.
And I'm an engineer by background, so I'm not, sometimes I'm a little too literal. But of course, I mean, there is some emotional side to it as well. And
Yeah, I mean, we covered that. I mean, the whole story with the hearing and the sound and everything. So, but what is the product for the people which don't know?
Sure. So my starting point for this was that nowadays you have the tendency to have all these technologies that isolate you from the world around you. So if you think about the phone, for example, you're looking at something and your eyes are just focused on this, and you don't have any attention of anything else. Same thing with the computer, right? We're both right now, we're looking at the computer. If someone comes by, we have to get out of the computer and look at them. And so and that's the same for headphones. So most headphones are created in a way that they just take over your hearing. And there's, of course, there is use cases for that perfectly justify it, like if you go in an airplane, or if you need to be in the zone programming, whatever. There's a bunch of good use cases for closing your ears and for noise canceling and all that. But there's a lot of other situations where you'd rather hear what's going on. And not only that, but you could potentially be in danger. So for example, if you are biking, you still want to listen to your music, or you want to talk on the phone or whatever, chances are that you're in more danger if you're doing that with regular headphones than if you're not doing it with any headphones. So, and there's even like a bunch of statistics that show that this is increasing the number of danger situations where people are using headphones while they're biking or walking or just about any movement kind of. So yeah, that's basically it. I really believe that headphones of the future should not isolate you, especially now. I mean, even with Corona, like people don't want to be isolated at all. Like they're panicking. um, Headphones should be integrated with your daily life in a way that it adds a layer to your life, and it kind of almost gives you like a superpower. So instead of removing yourself from your surroundings and using headphones, you can stay in your surroundings and using headphones and add a layer to it. So a good example I always use is biking, right? So you go biking, you put the Auricles on, and you're completely open, like your ears are completely open. The design is made that way. And an important thing is that the sound quality has to be great still for people to use this, right? And that's been one of the main challenges of bone conduction, is that the sound quality is just not good enough. But that's not our case. I mean, we've done a bunch of investigations and we've worked really hard to make it sound at least as good as a regular headphone, like a normal in-ear, like the ones you're using now, something that people associate at least to a good reference sound, and so we really worked really hard on that. Because I mean, if you're using headphones but they don't sound good, then you just take them out after 10 minutes or something. And we don't want to create garbage either. So but there is products like that, because bone conduction is not easy. And some people are okay with that, but most people are like, okay, I would rather have something that isolates me and listen to high quality. But now you don't have to make that decision. Now you have both. That's basically what we're doing.
Okay, so just to for the listeners, when I listen to
Yes.
this, so you have your headset and you click it on to your whatever
Tragus, it's called.
what Tribus
Tragus.
Tragus. Okay,
Tragus.
yeah, it's the listeners are all that well educated. Now I probably need to find some pictures on the blog post so that people can. But it's you
Yes.
it's forward.
You have this little membrane here. Yeah. And I mean, I can. So we made this system, and so that you can clip it here. So basically, you just put it like this, and you clip it on.
Yeah, it's
So
kind of
your
forward.
ears-
from the ear forward, for the ones
it's
only listening to the audio version here and don't see the video.
Exactly. Sorry.
It's forward, from the ear forward to your, to your cheekbones, kind of.
Yeah, and that's also because the sound has to be located here as well.
So it's where you have your beard, right? It's like on the cheekbone.
That's where you have your beard, yeah, and it doesn't interfere with your beard either, because this is done in a way that it just like it comfortably adjusts. So, but sorry, so it has a wire, of course. This is just one, just to show how people how it works, and but this is the actual prototype. So
the headset is connected with a wire for the left and right.
Exactly.
But it's wireless.
It's Bluetooth. Yes.
And it works by, as we try to say, it works by vibrating onto your cheekbones on the side, where the beard is for men, not for women.
Sorry?
I hope. Where the beard is for men, but not for women.
Yeah. I mean, you can see I have a lot of beard and I have no problems. So it's
Yes. So it's vibrating there. It's kind of like Google glasses were vibrating on a different place, right? They were vibrating behind the ear.
Exactly. So behind the ear is you could say the conventional spot for many years. Medical has done that for a long time, but trust me, I researched this so much. I did so many measurements, so many experiments, so many different components and different positionings, like putting it all over. and this place is by far the most responsive place. So what that means is that with less voltage, you get more power out of it. So and that also means you can get more sound out of the device with less less energy, and it sounds better here. It actually, the frequency response, or the sound quality here is superior to the sound quality here. So at least in our case, and that is something that you have to test a lot depending on how you build your device. They're either suitable for here or here, and everything is relative to how you do it. But this was the best compromise we could get. And also we really, I mean, this was our own idea. It's patented, this clipping idea. And this, I mean, you could use also something on top here, for example, but we wanted to create a design where there was no interference with other stuff like glasses and hats and clothes and stuff. So that's why we decided to locate everything here. That's the basic explanation. The design explanation is that one, but also the sound explanation, because this is the best spot to put it.
And you keep the ears open. The canal is open because it's moving forward. It looks a bit funny, but you have to get used to that, right? Because it's going forward.
Yeah, so you can see that my canal, I don't know if you can see that, but it's open canal, and this is also a prototype. So
we'll add on my blog post and whatever on LinkedIn, on my webpage, etc. We will also have links, of course, to your webpage, so people can look at the product. That's exactly. And Indiegogo, at least for the early listeners, there's still Indiegogo running. It's September. No, it's October, actually. It's 1st of October, 2021. Right. So people, if you listen to that in 23 or 30, Indiegogo is over, and we have version 5.6.
Yeah. I hope that by that time there'll be something else. Something new.
Something new, of course. Now, the other question, just before we had the interview, I talked to my friend, which we have the daily talk. And then I was like, okay. He said, he also has the headset. He's biking to work, and then he has like the button, and then it's the hear through option. I mean, I also have the over-ear headset because I bought it, like you said, I bought it, a big one, because I wanted to zone out. I just wanted to be with the music or the podcast.
That's
or
valid,
whatever.
Man. That's super valid.
Right? Not for biking. Seriously, people.
No.
I use it at home, so I don't have whatever. noise it's around, neighbor cutting grass or whatever, kids running around.
Yeah, totally.
But there you
I
also
also have those.
Yes, exactly. We chose not to have it for this interview because we're talking about beer. And there you have the button for have ambient sound or whatever it is. So if you're walking, so you still hear, but it uses the microphone and mixing it with the sound you have. So that's the difference, right?
Yes. So
or is there something else? Is there also another technology where you still
you're spot on? You're spot on. Your train of thought is correct. So what most companies are doing right now is called transparency mode, and so that's so that's basically you have an in-ear put it in there, or you have an over-ear, and then you have some microphones. It captures the environment. They call that transparency mode. What they fail to tell you is that for one, this doesn't work in all situations. So because it's so difficult to do good wind noise algorithms and stuff like that, the experience is that you're going on your bike, for example, and you turn that on because you need to pay attention to what's going on. But then because the wind hits on the microphones, there's no more transparency for anyone, you know?
No shit,
it's not
I
so
know.
transparent anymore.
Oh, especially if you talk on the phone. Fuck that. I mean, seriously, this fucks up the experience completely. Having my overhead headphone, when I couldn't find the little ones, the noise from the wind, and in Denmark, it's the 3 days without wind. I mean, on the West Coast, Copenhagen is better, I think, but just the slightest wind, it just gives you so much noise. When you have the noise cancellation on and you just want to listen to something, it's just like
it's impossible. Basically, the whole point of having that feature is gone in many different situations. You just have to have some wind, and then it doesn't work. So that's the thing. Like when you use your natural hearing, when your ear is completely open, I mean, you even forget you're wearing them because they're put in a way that it just feels like there's nothing there, unless you're listening to music, of course. But the sensation is like as if you have a speaker in the room, but you're the only one who can hear that speaker, right? Because the sound is not blasting in, it's kind of outside, and it feels like all over the place, like it's outside of you. And then because your ears are open, then you don't have that problem that you depend on a microphone to hear what you would normally hear otherwise anyway. And then you go and get a little bit of wind, and then it doesn't work anymore, and you're in danger again, or you're not aware, right? So transparency mode is good in some situations. Let's say if you're at home, or again, the thing with headphones is that they are so use case dependent and so like situation dependent. I think in the future it's like there'll be a bunch of different there's already a bunch of different headphone designs, because it's really hard to make a one headphone fits all. And transparency is a good example. It works in some situations, but it doesn't work in a lot of situations, especially the important situations where you would have noise generated from the wind. So
wow, I mean, you just opened my mind. You made me even more aware. I mean,
that's good,
because I have always these one headsets.
Asking me.
But you're the expert, right?
Yeah. But it's valid, man. You're not the only one who has these questions. Everybody has these questions. And it's also a lot of, like, you could say, it's not misinformation, but it's just they don't have enough information to make a good decision. They just, a transparency mode is sold as this great thing, and it is a great thing, but it doesn't work in many ways. So people need to inform themselves, and they need to know. It's very valid, these questions, and you're not the only one asking.
No,
it's very, very common.
Just to commercialize, that's why they have to go for Auricle or whatever the Danes say. But no, what I meant, you made me more aware that like, okay, it actually means I should not go in the shop. Oh, you have the black mode. Hey,
Yeah,
you
that's
look,
better.
you look much
Pretty
better now. For the ones looking at the YouTube video, or they can see Pedro much better.
Yeah, cool. Sorry about that.
You look even better than me. I have like this magenta color. I'm more the visual
you look good,
creative.
man.
I'm
You what?
I'm more the visual creative, man. Drawing, painting, photography, and stuff like that. So I can see that I have a little bit too much magenta in my skin tone, where you're more yellowish.
I
But
see
you're
what you mean.
Portuguese.
Yeah.
But you're Portuguese, and I'm Swiss. So you know
Yes,
we have
I'm
different
more
skin.
green.
Green from the
Yeah,
heart. I'm the yellow guy. That's
exactly.
the warm yellow color.
That's good too.
Sorry to go back to the
No, don't
podcast.
worry.
But you know, when I go to the shop, I try to find the perfect headset. And now I do understand. No, you don't get the perfect headset. It's like as me as a photographer, you don't get the perfect camera. It's the camera for what you need it for, right? If you go for landscape photography in the North Pole and where it's cold, you get a fucking sturdy thing also for the sandblasting. But if you want to take interior photographs or portraits, you take a different lens, you take a different camera, you take a small one, you take a big one, you take one which is weather resistant, and you don't need a weather resistant camera all the time, right? So for the headset, I can see, you know, like these ones I have now here, they're not the big over. Actually, I could have used them, to be honest. I wouldn't hear the sound from the cars all the time, but I tune out of it because I tuned into you. So I don't have to press it away. It just is there, but it doesn't matter. My dog doesn't really. Oh, she sleeps behind me. I realized when she came. So I have these ones. It's perfect for walking and talking because I still hear the sounds, right? So if there's a honking horn, police, ambulance, whatever, firefighter, I will be aware of it.
Exactly.
But not as good as with your product, to be honest.
Exactly.
So that's where it comes to me. Like I wanted to go on Indiegogo and buy, but then we talked. I'm on the transition from being divorced, getting a new job. Yeah. So I don't have the income at the moment to buy that. But if I want to listen to them, so my question is, where can I get a test? Of course, you're working like we don't have the interview with your headset on because the working prototypes you have is currently on the software update, so you don't have one at home. So you have
I mean, we're working with them all the time. Yeah.
Exactly. But if now it's, as I said, 1st of October 21, and you had Indiegogo started in September something, so it's another 20 days about running officially. And so you're going into production because it was successful. I saw you got twice or triple the amount you wanted for production start, right?
Yeah. So we reached our initial goal. That's what you would call it. And the thing with crowdfunding, the more successful you are, the better the chances for making everything work and for having enough cash for production, because it's very expensive to produce stuff. So yeah, I mean, if you look into the page, you have like a time frame of when are things gonna happen,
or expected.
Expected to happen, yes. And the I mean, I didn't want to be too optimistic either, because I'm a realist as well. So by around May or so, that's when we start shipping them to people. Of course, you can try them before that. I mean, even if you were in Copenhagen, you can come and give it a try. But the thing with creating a new product is there's a lot of nuances to it. Like it's a very detailed thing. Like that, with so many ways it can go wrong, and a lot of bug fixes and all that stuff. So it has to be in a controlled environment for now, because otherwise, like if I send one to you, you're probably going to focus on a problem that we're fixing now, as opposed to the headphone itself. That's the thing with developing it's people are, and it's valid. Like people are prone to be like, oh, but why is it doing this? Why is it not doing that? And at this point is because it's not final. That's why. And but it is very close. But we have to keep on fixing all these issues. But yeah, I mean, in let's say, if you want to come by around in 2 months or so, you can definitely try something and go out on the street and just give it a bike ride and try it out and stuff like that. It's already very much there, but it has all these things that we're fixing still.
Bug fixes, right? So, but
yes,
I'm also looking at, time passes fast, right? I have my podcast for 2.5 years already, and so
Yes.
who knows? And the people might be in May. So, or they listen now the next 3 weeks, but that's normally what happens, right? In the first few weeks, the people listen to the episodes normally.
That's of course.
And so that means if they want to listen, they go. Do you have like? You don't have a shop where you're working somewhere at the
not
startup.
at this point. No way. I mean, Oliver, the point of doing a crowdfunding is that you can scale things to the next level, right?
Yes.
So, because if you are a company that is already completely ready, then the whole point of crowdfunding is gone. Like when you like when you crowdfund something, is like, hey people, I have this thing and I can show you in this video how it works and what people think about it. Even if you scroll down, you have a second video that is only about the testimonials. So it's just people who tried it out. Then we invited them over, and you see their reactions. So the idea is that you understand through this communication what to expect, right? And then so that's the thing. Like it is early, and that's what crowdfunding is for. And if people are convinced by what they see, then they are willing to back the project, and then they'll get it later. And
so
with a
2022,
very nice discount, of course. That's the thing about crowdfunding as well. It's like you give. I mean, most crowdfundings, people don't make money. It's just to scale to another level. It's like, if you account for all the costs you have when everything is shipped outside of the door, you are actually at a negative for the most part, rather than a plus. So it's really to validate your business, is to get to the next level, and that's what it is.
Yeah. Okay. I probably have to figure out how I
reformulate.
No, but I totally understand, and it's very nice that you explained that, because this is a podcast for the listeners as much as for me, right?
Exactly. Yeah, a lot of people don't really know how crowdfunding works, and they should definitely get informed before they back, because it's just you're helping out someone to bring something into the world, and it's not like a regular purchase. It's like a community driven experience, you could say. So it's a different ball game. And but then of course you have some risks, but you also have some rewards, and that's the whole thing about it.
Yeah. I mean, as I said, I'm interested in photography since the corona. I didn't really listen to the podcasts there anymore. I had some other things, more spiritual growth. And I remember in the photography world since 2012, 13, there was a lot of Kickstarts and Indiegogo, which never saw the day of light.
Exactly.
And they, so I know it's not Amazon, right? It's going on Indiegogo. Kickstarter is not like Amazon where you press and then you get it.
It's not. So if you scroll, you want to finish?
Yeah. So what I realized is, and Kickstarter and Indiegogo and whatever, GoDaddy is something else. They have been, they have, that's a web page I think I'll provide. It's they have been working very hard, because there was a lot of people using that for making money for doing nothing. I mean,
yeah, that's terrible. There's definitely scammers there as well. But
yes, but they got much better with getting them out of the door. So it is
yeah,
more
I
safe.
mean,
But
but
there's still things going
you
wrong, right? I mean, we don't know the
exactly,
world.
exactly. Yeah. So that's the thing. I mean, you should definitely do your due diligence really well when you back a crowdfunding project. I mean, that's also something I really focused on even much before I launched the campaign. So, I mean, you can find us on LinkedIn, you can find us on all the social media, you can even follow our stories. Like we've published a bunch of stories in a social media platform called Imager or Imgur. Some people read it Imgur. So I mean, we just it's about um, if something just comes up like this and you've never heard about them, then you better be double sure of what you're doing, because that exists too, and it's a way for some people to abuse yeah, to get money out of other people. But if you look into the project enough, you will see, okay, this is valid, they've done this and that. I can look at the posts they've made. It goes a long way back, and here's like the progress of their design. Here's so it's really something you have to be sure before you put your money in. Yeah, yeah, of course, of
Yeah.
course.
No, but then the
Even
question,
so, there is the risk of things not working out.
but
Exactly.
but but even
Exactly.
even Kodak doesn't really exist anymore, right? And that was the biggest
Yeah, exactly.
because
Exactly.
they made
Yeah.
wrong decisions, or the market went a different way than expected, and
Yeah.
stuff like that happens. But how is it now? Let's look in the future when you have the product. So you say you start shipping. That means the backers get the product first, obviously,
Yeah.
and then
Yes, of course.
what is the
The,
plan after that? I mean, now you have the money where you think you expect that you can
yeah.
produce and
Yeah.
send. Is
Yeah.
what where will the product be sold afterwards? It will be just online, or because it's a new technology, people want to
Yes. Yes.
experience it as well. Is it in the hearing aids?
That's a
Is
good
it
point.
in Bilka in
Oliver,
Denmark?
before we go there, I'll just put it this way. For you and for most people who are just exposed to the launch right now, you're putting 1,000 kronas or whatever,
Yeah.
like you're putting that amount of money if you back one, right? But for me, it's been 3 years of hard work and very little salary. So like you can put things in perspective and kind of like the amount of risk you're going to take and the amount of risk I took all this time and I'm still taking, because I do have the experience, and I could have a very well paid job in many companies and be comfortable and all that, but I'm doing this for a reason, right? So my level of risk is really high, and it's going to stay that way, and I'm super used to it now. Of course, it's still a very like it's a very, when you do your own company, is a very existential thing. Everything is very in your body. You feel everything because it's like it's a part of you. When you work for someone else, of course there's also some stress and stuff, but it's not as inside, at least not for me. um but yeah, so about your previous question, yes, so we will focus mostly on online. I know that it is definitely because it's such a innovative design, then people will be like having all kinds of questions that we are always trying to answer and show, like with videos and stuff, that it's okay. But still people need to try it. I get that. The problem is that we're moving into a more digital world, right? So retail is dead as we know it, and it's the online that prevails now. So
Okay.
and that's challenging for an innovative product, right? So it's all about putting a lot of effort into educating people before they make the decision of buying it, basically.
Okay. I mean, it could also be, that you have some ideas. The next question, of course, my friend had like, oh, what's next? Do you already have ideas for the next product, or are you still so much into the current product, right? So
Of
that's what
course, there's
he
already
asked me.
ideas for that.
Of course, I mean,
Of
but
course, there's always ideas.
okay. But then let's unfortunately, with my broken hand, for the people that watch the video,
No
they can
worries.
see,
Look
I
good.
could not take all the notes which came up during the discussion. So a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah,
questions are, unfortunately, they flew away.
yeah.
But
I could read in your face about when I was saying that making your own company is something. Is that something that you're?
yeah, I mean, oh, Jesus. There's of course a complete different podcast, and we talked about that. It's more like,
Yeah.
because we talked about my hand is broken because I pressed myself too far, so I got into this emotional, disbalance. I'm talking about being emotionally aware, and then of course when you say you feel it in the body, of course this came up with how do you
Yes.
feel
Yes.
it? Where do you feel it? How do you
Yeah.
learn that? How
Yeah.
about the whole stress situation being for 3 years?
Yes.
Then the other
Yes.
question, I mean, is also I met you at SoundHub, and SoundHub was a Kickstarter or whatever you call it, the
Yes.
acceleration.
Yes.
Accelerace is a Danish coaching, or
X. Yeah, that's correct. Yes.
and you were in a 3 months or whatever
Yeah.
course because you presented, you had your elevator pitch, and you
Yeah.
got
Yeah. Exactly.
invited
Exactly.
to store, and you got all this coaching from SoundHub and Accelerace. And so there was also these questions behind it. I mean, one thing is the Indiegogo, right?
Yes.
The
Yes.
backing from the people. And so now we are going into production and we are gonna deliver.
Yes.
And you're like, yes, this excitement. And then there's the other question, like, oh, how did you feel it in your body? Where did you feel it? What was the sensation when you saw that you had the first,
Yeah.
the first goal was achieved?
Yeah. I think a big sense of relief is what you feel when you've been trying to create something for quite a while, and you just want to get it out there, and it's definitely a sense of relief and accomplishment. But the next day, you just move on and you just go back to the battle, right? So I think it's again talking about fluctuating from one thing to the other. You have to find your balance the way that you can work with it. There's moments where you celebrate, but for the most part you're just fighting your way to it, especially if you're a small player. The big players, everybody wants to work with them. They have a brand already, and they're like, for example, Bang & Olufsen or Harman or whatever, Bose, all those guys. I mean, everybody wants to work with those guys. But with the small guys, it's a bit of a different ball game. So you start something from scratch. You don't really have a brand yet. You have yourself. You just use yourself as much as you can, and then you scale things slowly. And so every time you accomplish something, just kind of savor it, because tomorrow is going to be another day and another battle. So it feels good along the way, but for the most part it's tough, man. It's tough.
Okay. I have many ways to go, and I just go with my intuition now.
Go ahead.
I had an interview with Medium, and I didn't go with the intuition, and I went wrong.
Okay.
So it didn't went wrong. It still was good, but he could
Yeah.
feel it that I didn't
Could
go
have
with
been
my
better.
intuition. No,
Okay, go
because I was
ahead.
afraid
Give
to
it a
ask.
try. Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
because I have all these other questions with Accelerace and SoundHub and
Yeah, sure.
finance, but what I want to go for here is because of the stress level, the
Yes.
the
High.
the fluctuation from yeah, but the fluctuation from the emotions, all these things. Or what are your practices? Do you have any practices to keep you grounded, to keep you sane, to keep you stress? I mean, stress is good for the body for a certain
Yeah.
amount of
Yeah.
time, right? But if you're too
Exactly.
long in a stress level, you break. You're not functional
Yes.
anymore. So what is your practices?
Okay,
You have
so
routines or?
first of all, I don't have any miracle solutions for you. Sorry. But I have some brain hacks I have for myself. So one is I don't believe stress is bad. I believe that stress has, and actually there's a good TED talk about this. It's this is not mine, but there is a there's two types of stress if you put it in a simple way. There's the distress and the eustress, and the distress is when stress goes in a very negative direction and you can't deal with stuff and you just go completely out of control. Eustress is when you use stress as, so eustress comes from euphoria stress. So it's when you use stress as a fuel to get things done and to stay in the good wave kind of. So I've been exposed a lot to this. I mean, we all have, right? But here in Denmark is very common that people see stress as a terrible thing. And it's just every time you talk about stress is like the most negative thing you can talk about, and people just want to avoid it at all costs. I don't believe that. I think we cannot operate without stress. But on the other hand, you have to be aware of what kind of stress are you pulling. And if you're pulling a lot of distress, then yeah, of course, take a break. Like go and take a dive in the cold water, do whatever you have to do to kind of just get it out of your body. And if it doesn't work, do it again. And if it doesn't work, do it again until it works. But I think it's the way you interpret it. That's one thing. And then the other thing is I just try to feel my body, and of course also listen to my girlfriend, which is a good compass for me, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes. And I mean, just try. I mean, it's easier said than done. I think like going back to the colors thing, by default I'm the green, so I can always roll back to some form of my calm self. And 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 I'm also very lucky that for some reason I can just sleep like a stone all the time. I don't have any trouble sleeping. I think sleeping is a big deal, right? If you can sleep properly, you wake up with you're back from this reserve place, right? You go to sleep, you sleep for 7 or 8 hours, and then you're back in this state of today is a new day. That's also something I remind myself all the time. Today is a new day. Every day is a new day. And normally people only think about that when they have a really tough experience, like when they're almost gonna die or something. But I think it's very important to kind of reset yourself all the time, saying, today I have a new opportunity to fix this stuff, or to, it's a fresh day every day, and I can kind of restart my own self every time. Like I've been given another chance, and I just keep on, and I have so many chances left if everything goes well. So so yeah, it's a collection of different things, a collection of different thoughts. And then once in a while I just crash in the sofa as well. I just play a little bit of Nintendo. And I mean, you can try. Maybe it's hard for the first 20 minutes because you're so stressed, but then you forget about it and you're in the game or whatever. I mean,
Okay, so you, what do you mean? I can definitely see that when you're stressed, you're so focused on the problem that it can
yeah,
be hard to do another activity, and if you just do it
yeah,
enough.
exactly,
But the other
exactly.
question for me was also, you said you have a band. Is that also for you kind of to just zone out, to play
Definitely,
music?
definitely, definitely. Music is all about getting out of that state. So when, I mean, we have a rehearsal a week, and I can't do more because I'm so busy. But but every time we do that, or every time, I mean, we only had one gig so far, but it's kind of a recent band. I had other bands in the past. But we'll do more gigs. But every time you're in the state of music and you're getting it out, it's I mean it's amazing. It's like something else. So that's definitely also a way to get out of that state and get into a state of, you know, deep relaxation, if you could say that.
It's yeah, another thing I'm getting more and more aware of is uh being present in the moment where we are now.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
so
Instead of
so
being in
you
the
don't have,
brain.
yeah, because either you're in the future and you're anxious about where to go.
Yeah.
I'm very,
You're
that's
talking
my
about
my
Eckhart
default.
Tolle now.
Yeah, yeah, but I just read Gary Zukav. um
Okay.
Gary Zukav is talking more about the emotions in the body, right? Where they're
Okay.
leaving, if you go spiritual, the chakras, right? And he says, like, if you have pressure on the
Yeah.
heart, it's something like with love and self-love and love for others.
Oh
If
yeah.
it's from, if you
Yeah.
have a lot of pain in the throat or the neck, it's about
Yeah. Yeah.
communicating your truth, being able to speak up, or being hindered for speaking up, and being able to actually feel in your body where you have lightness or
Totally.
heaviness, pressure, or whatever
Totally.
it is.
Totally.
And he says this is about being present, right? So he
Yes.
talks about the same with Eckhart Tolle, but using different ways of
Yes.
learning. And that's where I'm working at the moment. And he says, Eckhart Tolle definitely as well, Gary Zukav, Michael Beckwith, etc., etc., etc.
Cool.
There's a lot of those guys. They
Yeah.
know
Yeah. Yeah.
Jesus, Buddha, and so on. If you want to go old,
Yeah.
Gandhi, Maria
Yeah.
Teresa. It's like if you're in the future, you're a lot of time anxious about what's going to happen because you don't know. Of course, you need to
Yes.
have time to think about the future, plan where you're going, so you have a direction. Or you're in the past, what happened, and then you're not feeling good about yourself. You're not feeling good about
Absolutely.
something. So, how is, are you very good being in the present, or is the music
Let's.
helping you to come back to
Yeah.
the present?
I mean, actually, if you think about it, it's not only the music but also my job. I am forced to be in the present all the time because there's so many things to do now, as opposed to thinking about whatever came or whatever's going to come. Like when you have your own company and you have limited resources and you have a bunch of things to do, completely different things. Like I have to put a different hat every, like, I don't know, 20 minutes or something. So it's very frantic. So yes, you're in your brain a lot because you have to solve stuff, but at the same time you have to be here and now and just chuk chuk chuk, you know. And that's actually, at least for me, it works. But of course at the end of the day I'm super tired, but that's probably also why I sleep so well. But uh but but yeah, I totally believe that 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 we are living in a state, for the most part, a lot of us, or actually all of us to a very high degree, are living a what do you call, like a autopilot mode, where like just kind of letting our brain take over, like all these thoughts, and whether you go forward or you go backwards, or so you have to do like a conscious effort to be here. And I mean, but you were talking about chakras and stuff. I'm not super into that kind of stuff. I'm more like a practical minded person, but I really like, for example, Eckhart Tolle, where he's like, he's trying to convey his message to anyone. Like he's not talking too much about, you know, because when you say chakras and stuff, you're kind of putting like a label on something.
Yeah.
But when you do it in a more abstract level, then you can kind of, you can you can feel like, oh yeah, I actually understand this. I thought about this before. I just didn't kind of materialize it in my thoughts. So I really believe that the more you are in the present and not in autopilot, the more you enjoy your life and the more you can tolerate with stress as well. So
Yes, I think, yeah, but a lot of stress is created by the past and the future.
Exactly.
And the past
Anxiety
has
and depression.
yeah, but if you go
Yeah.
to Eckhart Tolle, I don't remember. He says the past happened in the present moment, and the future will be in the present moment when it's there.
Exactly. So
Something
there's
like
only
that.
the present moment, basically.
So there's only the present moment, which is true, and that with the
Yeah.
chakras. I mean, Gary Zukav is only mentioning it once in a while, but he tries to convey
Okay.
it like with how do you feel, and stuff like that. So to be more
Yes.
present now.
Okay.
Yeah, but from yeah, for me, it's like I've been too much in the future and the past, anxious about where I'm going and where I've been
And
and what
you're
I've
working
done.
on that.
I'm working on that, right? I looking at my
It's working,
hand.
man. I can see it.
No, but my hand really had to push me into hold, pause. I cannot really write or paint or do anything, but I'm reading. I'm trying to
Yeah.
feel. I'm walking a lot. So, I mean, walking is another thing
That's good.
of releasing stress as well, or doing
Oh yeah.
exercise.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And your
So,
brain works differently also when you work, when you walk.
yes,
Your
or
brain.
running, or
Yeah, exactly. So
being in
it's
nature. I
good
mean,
to
whoa, my microphone just thought it has to fall for whatever reason.
wants to go for a walk, your microphone. Yeah.
No, that's funny. Okay, now it's stable again. I have some weight back, so it's not falling over.
That's good.
The statif I use is not made for that big microphone. It was for one of these, small ones.
It works. It works.
So, but yeah, I mean, we've been talking a lot back and forth, and we learned a lot of how the ear works and how the headsets work. Let's see if do we have some time to look at what your definition of creativity is or innovation?
Sure, we have.
Yes.
Okay. Creativity. I mean, I'm thinking about, again, being a child, right? When you're a child and you're open to everything because you don't have all these barriers or constructs you build as the older you get, right? You're not as defined. So you allow yourself to experiment a lot with everything in life. And that's somehow creativity, where you say, I know that this is the path that is most pursued, but there's all these paths, so why not just try them out and see what happens, right? So I think when you allow yourself to be creative most of the time, it actually gives back a lot. Because if you just stay stuck on one thing and you just sit with that, I mean, some people are happy that way, or at least seem to be, and that's fine. But I mean, if you start your own company, you have to be very embrace creativity on a daily basis. So I've been very creative in this business in many ways, and I love it. And when I had like a stable job in a big company and a fat salary, the amount of creativity that I was given was like this much. I mean, the message is that you have all this creativity if you work for us, but then, because you're a part of you're a spoke on a wheel, you're a keg in the system, they just basically pick you up and put you right here. Okay. And then this wheel spins with this wheel. And, maybe you have a little margin between the two wheels, but at the end of the day, it's just a wheel. So I mean, if creativity is important for you, then maybe you should try to do something yourself. Or that could also be that there are big companies that give you a lot of freedom. I mean, I've heard that, for example, Google gives people a lot of freedom to explore their ideas, and they have like days just for that, and that's how you get a lot of new tools from Google and so on. So yeah, very important.
So creativity for you is just being playful.
Creativity is allowing yourself to play in a sandbox with no limits until you build up the figure with the stand that you felt like you wanted to build.
Yeah. And compared to innovation, how would you?
Innovation is the consolidation of creativity. So because you have to start by being creative and then you can innovate, right? So innovation is the next step. So first you start by creating something, and then, I mean, is this creation I've made useful at all, or is it not? And then if it is, then you've innovated in this field, or
Yeah,
that's,
you
I think innovation is the next step. Yes.
okay. And then finding back to your product, when you
Yeah,
when
I
you
think.
look back, so how did you get to the product where you are? When let's look at it like as a framework
Sure.
or as a method.
Sure.
How does someone say, you said you have your hearing problem, you said it's not safe, right? With the over ear headsets
Yeah.
and whatever in
Yeah.
ear headsets, you cannot hear everything. You walk down the road, you're in Copenhagen, boom, accident, because you didn't hear the car, you didn't hear the bike, whatever.
Exactly.
So that was
Exactly.
an idea. So where are you going from there? I mean, then you have that idea. I'm like, okay, what now?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you basically identify a pain, right? You go like, okay, I can see that with the current designs, this pain is existing. It happens. So from there, you just like start thinking, how could I solve that? So, and it's not only about danger, it's also about being present. Again, going back to being present, right? Because when you're in the closed headphones, you're not present. You're just in this, in this media that you're feeding. So those are the two main concerns. And so I had to think about, first of all, what's out there as well, because there are competition as well. I have to think about what's out there and what are they doing that I don't think is right, and that I think that's why people don't want it yet. But it's just a big mush of a lot of thoughts in many directions, and then you realize, I mean, and this is a iterative process, right? It's like first you focus on one problem, then you focus on another problem, then you focus on a technological limitation, and you try to solve one at a time so that you can put all this together and then be like, okay, this is the solution, right? All these small problems solved together creates this solution. um and it was an iterative process. Like in the beginning, if you look at the crowdfunding page and you scroll down, you'll see like the progress of the design and stuff. In the beginning, I had this like massive ring going around the ear. That's how I started. And then I mean, as you go, you also get a lot of feedback, you get a lot of new ideas. So one day I was like thinking, this ring is not going to work at all. Like I have to think about something else. But I knew that it had to be here, right? And then I was thinking about this, and I was like, what if, this is something that could be attached? And then I had an idea, and then I was like, oh, I'm going to pick up a not so pleasant clothes peg,
Oh,
the clothes peg, just to see if it's possible. I'll sacrifice myself. So I tried that out, and of course it hurts because it's really strong, right? That one. And it's like wood or plastic. So it's all about, the pressure, the material, the positioning. There's a lot
ape.
of things that, the shape, exactly. So, but I was like, I have to try this. So I tried it out, and I was like, oh my god, that could be it. And then I just explored that idea for a long time to make it pleasant. And now, if people when people try it, because our conception is that if you clip something on the body, it's gonna hurt. I mean, we've also been like exposed when we were kids about, like Tom and Jerry, and
Oh my god.
trying to put the mouse trap and stuff like that. But I mean, when people try it now, they go like, oh, I can't feel anything. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Well, I've worked my ass off to get there, you know. So it's really funny because your brain tricks you also. I mean, there is, of course, if you put a clothes peg, you know, it hurts, but it's not the case for the version of the device that we have. So it's really like and you just thought after thought and experiment and putting all the small pieces kind of in one big brain map and then trying to solve that whole thing.
Okay, so yeah, because I had this interview with in January, February from a former Lego
Yeah.
innovation department guy, which is now having his
Yes.
consultancy, and he says you have to look at ideas like horses, right? If you have an innovation department, you have to have a lot of horses so you can bet on the fastest. If you have only one horse, that is the fastest, most clever horse there is, right? But if you have a lot of horses, oh no, ideas are like horses, right? And if you have a lot of ideas and a lot of horses, you can find out which is the best or fastest or strongest.
Yes.
But of course, you're in a startup, and the other question which came up in my mind was like, did you work a stable job while you were doing all these tests?
Oh, absolutely not, man. I quit my job, and then I mean, it still took me a few months to figure out how and how to do everything. But then after like half a year, I started the company, like all by myself, and then I started getting people in, and then it's right now we're like five, sometimes six, um, and we're I mean, it just was gradually. It started with me, and then there was a new guy, and then there was another new guy, and then someone left, and then someone better came in, and so on. And so it's you don't have all those horses. Like it's a completely different world. Big Lego versus small Auricle, but it's so that's also why it takes maybe longer for us in some ways, because they also say that big companies take a long time to make decisions, right? But in some ways some things take more time because we have less resources. But I think, yeah, it's possible. It's totally possible. Just depends on how stubborn you are.
Yeah. But now you said after half a year you build the company, so you didn't leave the company because you had the idea of a product which is safe to wear.
No. So I quit my hearing aid job in March, and then I was thinking about stuff, how and where,
How to
and at
continue your
that
life, basically, or
yeah, and I mean, I knew I wanted to start my business, and
wow.
then after 6 months, I started Auricle, basically.
Okay, so I mean, most people would keep the job and like, I have an idea for my business or for the future, and then they start to work a bit on it, and then it's like, fuck that stable job, I'll continue. Like, no, I think I want to have my own business once. Okay, I'll just stop working now.
That's exactly what I did. Yeah.
Oh.
I just went full on. Yeah. I just said this, enough is enough, and I was 33 at a time, so I'll just try this. I mean, if I don't do it now, when will I do it, right? So it's
oh my
it's
god,
fine, man.
Yeah, I was 33 when I was fired, and now I'm 43. And for the last 10 years, I try to figure out what to do. I'm good in talking to people. I love that.
Yeah, you are.
It just doesn't bring money yet.
So that part. It's tough with podcasts. Yeah.
Some people are multimillionaires, right? Doing podcasting and YouTube, and others are earning nothing. So it's to find the right niche, kind of, and the right angle, the right message. But wow, your story is great. I mean, now we also covered the start. Really, it just came like that, and creativity, innovation, and wow, yeah, it's just for you. It was just a flow.
Yeah, totally.
Somehow ideas came after ideas came after ideas, and they came from somewhere.
Totally. I mean, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
No. Just continue.
No, I mean, it for me, it's like my life kind of led to this. I keep on saying if I didn't have a hearing loss in the first place, first of all, would I have started playing music? Second, I wouldn't care about hearing. So would I have even studied audio and left the country, because Portugal, I mean, it's not a rich country, but you can get by if your family is okay and so I mean, I keep on coming back to the thought, my life would have been completely different if I didn't have a hearing loss. And it's kind of funny because in a way I'm thankful for it, but that's you have to make the negatives into pluses, so it's and it's definitely that's the way I live. And it's been like a progress up to this point, it's been a continuous progress up to this point, so it's just gonna continue, man.
No, but it's yeah, Michael Beckwith, I listened to and did some quests with him. He's just awesome. He sounds like this reverend, from the Catholic Church or whatever in the US, okay. Right? He's a African American, and when you listen to him, but he's not preaching, the Bible or anything. He's just like preaching life, like how to be the best way. And he also says, if you have like these dark moments in life, like I break the hand, or you say the hearing loss, exactly, right? Exactly. He said, what is the beauty on the other side? Yeah. What is the beauty that comes from this lesson?
I was just lucky that I was born with it. Some people have to find it later,
Yeah, which is also hard. If you're a musician, or
it's very hard,
and then you lose the hearing.
Yeah. But I mean, about what you're saying, that something has to happen for you to realize something new. With you, could be the hand, for example, if we're talking about specifically.
It's not that bad, right? It's a 4-week thing, and the hand.
But I'm just saying, some people, again, going back to something that happens to you that changes you, like some death of someone or your own potential, some really serious disease, or and then you switch to some other brain operation, and you change. Of course, some people don't, but it's also very hard to change when you're already so shaped at later in life, right? So it's tough, man.
And that goes back to what you said. Every day is a new start.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So it's all a matter of perspective.
But it's hard to say, today is another day. I have a friend, unfortunately didn't talk to him for some time, but he said, whatever, how many thousands of seconds you have a day. Today is a new day, and blah, 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 1,000 seconds. And I'm going to make the best out of it. And it's a blessing, and it's good. So you can be a different person every day if you choose to. It's hard, right? To redefine yourself and be different. But oh, wow. So is there any advice you would like to give the listeners, or to your younger self? I mean, you can also look at your younger self, like your 18-year-old or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure there's a lot of young people listening to this. Maybe it's more our crowd of semi-old. I think I don't want to pink color that everybody can find a reason to do anything, and I don't want to make it sound like it's easy to do it either, because it's not. I think life is a lot about adversity and struggle, actually. This is a bit of the Southern way of thinking. You're really bombarded with Christianity and stuff, even though I'm not Christian. But I think if you really accept that life is beautiful in its own way, then you can find what makes you happy. It doesn't have to be based on a hearing loss or in a whatever. It can be something else. It can be something as simple as giving your kids a great future, or just you have to tap into what's important for you, and you have to do that because life is so short, man. So it's I think about the fact that life is short all the time, and I mean, this is something also that everybody normally would think about. Is like, when I reach old age, what would I regret not to do, right? And you have to fight your comfort zone and do that, because comfort zone and autopilot, that's nice once in a while, but don't do that all the time, because you'll soon be dead, basically.
Yeah. I
It's
mean,
a very practical advice.
and love green because it's the color of the heart.
Yeah, and just listen to yourself, and cut all the bullshit. You know, it's not relevant. It's not relevant. What's relevant is that you do what really gets you going. And if you wake up and you dread the day and you're like, fuck, you know, this is not good, you have to reverse that thought and say, what is it for today? Like, you it's almost like you already have to wake up ready to do it. I think that's, then if you do that, then you're doing something good for you. But of course, take care of yourself.
So so what is getting you up in the morning out of bed?
Oh man, solving all my issues, startup issues, like all kinds of stuff. All kinds of stuff. I have this huge backlog of stuff to do every day,
And you're looking
like,
forward? So like you get up like, yeah, I have like this bag of things to do.
I wouldn't say it's like, yeah, let's do it, but it's more like, gotta do it, kind of. And then once in a while, it's like, yeah, we made it, you know, and then like next stuff.
Okay.
So, but I kind of like in the morning, also when I arrive to work, I take a cup of coffee and I pick up like some post-its, right? And I just allow myself, without talking with anyone for a while, just allow to empty what's in there, and just like, okay, I have this in my mind, boom boom boom, I have this, boom 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 boom. And most of those things are always like work related things, so I so that I put it in somewhere else and it's empty, and then it's functional, you know. Whether that's work things or not work things, just download it, just take it out, you know. And then you have it in the paper. If you need to go back to it, you go and read it. But it's the exercise of letting go of all that noise that is in your head. That's super important, I think.
That's another advice. That's another call to action, kind of. It's the journaling. I know about it, and
give it a try. Give it a try. It's really worth it. But you have to build up the habit. But that's another story.
That's not 21 days only. Things like that are 60 to 70 days before it's a habit. But yes, journaling the ideas and thoughts out.
Exactly.
I've been told I've not done it enough. But I've also been told, like, if you start writing down the things in the beginning, it's all kind of bullshit. It's all kind of what is in the frontal loop or whatever. The things floating there in the front, which you always see somehow.
Yeah, and you have to get rid of that.
Yes, but then keep going, because then the important stuff is coming.
But don't even make a big deal out of it. I mean, when you put a big word like journaling, it's like, it feels like, oh my God, I have to start these journals. Just think like 5 minutes, post it. That's it. Like, just sit there, enjoy the coffee, have like a simple 5-minute moment with your post-it, and just something pops up, you put it down. Oh yeah, there's also this, you put it down. And I think like after that, you're kind of like, okay, it's not so bad. You know, I can manage.
It's not so bad, but perfect. So let's keep it at that. It's we've been talking long. I mean, I couldn't ask you so many more things, but let's keep it there.
We can always have a second part at some point.
I mean, I definitely think the second part should be when I'm in Copenhagen or you're here in Struer for whatever
that would
reason.
Be interesting. We can also do it here.
Yeah, both ways. I mean, I have also friends in Copenhagen I should visit once in a while. But, you know, Corona, I have not been really traveling. So not even in Denmark. I kind of was a minimal radius. Yeah, so where can people find out more about you and the product? I mean, there's an Indiegogo.
Yeah, Yes, so it's exactly. So just you can go to Indiegogo and find the campaign that is live right now. It's going to keep going, so it's a very nice deal if you back us now, like as opposed to buying it on Amazon full price in let's say in 10 months or something. So
That's they search for Auricle, or how do they search?
Auricle, yeah, it's a bit hard to write. So it's Auricle, Auricle. Um, yeah, and you just search for Auricle in Indiegogo, you'll find the campaign. Yeah.
And do you have
And
also
watch
a
the
web
video.
page?
Watch the video. We worked really hard for that video.
Oh, it's
And
a nice one.
and
It's really nice. Congratulations.
thanks, man. Thank
I
you.
love it.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. That's nice. We work our ass off.
So you have Facebook as well. You have LinkedIn as well.
Yeah, we have Facebook, Oracle Headphones. That's the name of the channel, if you could say that. And we have LinkedIn. It's all our Oracle Headphones. So if you just search for Oracle or Oracle Headphones, you get there. And also the website oracle.io. Yeah.
And if they want to reach out to you, it's Pedro Costa on.
Exactly. They can just ping me on LinkedIn or whatever, and I'll answer.
That's awesome. Yeah, sometimes I ask any books to read or any podcasts to listen to.
Sure. I mean, we touched upon it. I think a very important book for me was The Power of Now. That's as spiritual as I can go. That's the top spiritual level for me. I really like that book because it's so practical in a way, but it's really self-analyzing. You know, you really dive into this kind of like, I didn't know I had these thought patterns, and it makes so much sense. And I'm gonna work on this kind of. That's a book I really like. And then of course there's all these. I mean, I've read a bunch of business books. But I haven't had a lot of time to read lately, or I didn't prioritize it lately. So I don't have a lot of recommendations. That's the one recommendation I have always in the tip of my tongue, because I think it's a book that everybody should read.
I mean, if you're a better person, you're also a better businessman and a better whatever, father, wife, daughter, son,
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly. Because you can always, yeah, you can. I mean, if you can analyze your own flaws and be open to be a better person, then that's I think your life will be a little bit better if you do that, instead of just sticking with even though I'm stubborn. But yeah, but it's so I also realize my own limitations, and that's something that we should always do.
Yeah,
definitely.
That was a nice loop from the start. Yes. Right. So with that, I'll say thank you for Pedro for your time. It was awesome. It was really nice. It was a deep question again. Every time we have deeper questions and talks. And for the listeners, please, subscribe to the channel. I'm planning already to have a second podcast, which is going more in the spiritual world. So I keep the Oliver Schirach Show more on the creative innovation side, and then find also Pedro Costa and Auricle. And with that, say, have a nice day.
Thanks, buddy.